is overwhelming, and she has, you could say, established her brand as someone who is anti-abuse. I think it's really important to now stake a horse in this race and say, I obviously was completely manipulated, and maybe rightfully manipulated, and we could agree and say, okay, well, if Blake came to her after love bombing her and said, I've been abused, maybe Colleen actually did just legitimately believe her and did something that wasn't being motivated by anything other than belief, right?
That even her own representatives knew that she was threatening and mean and tough and wanted to get her way.
And so that's what happens to you, right? Then you run into somebody who seems like a witch who will take advantage of you and hurt you until finally even that kind of a guy rises up. Now, he didn't do it himself exactly. She wants us to believe this is actionable harassment, what we just witnessed there. She alleges that she's a Me Too victim there. That's absurd. I will happily participate in releasing any further leaks that they have. What does she have to fear if she's telling the truth?
Megyn Kelly just showed how Blake Lively's court case is hurting women all around. She called out how real victims are now being labeled as liars, all because Blake made lying seem so effortless.
She is an egotistical bully. And she was such a brat that she wanted to control every scene, wanted to see all the dailies, wanted to do her own cut and did her own cut of the movie. All this is very unusual for just an actress in the film.
Blake showed the world how a woman can fake victimhood, twist the truth, and destroy a man's career. All for greed, power, and control. And women are paying the price.
This person is not an honest broker. I believe her less than ever. I actually disbelieve her fully now.
Megyn Kelly's been sounding the alarm, but is anyone really paying attention? This ain't just a Blake Lively versus Justin Baldoni issue. It's a full-blown crisis for every woman who's ever had to fight to be heard. Because when one rich, privileged Hollywood star cries wolf, every real survivor gets silenced.
What appears to be the fact that she is an egotistical bully.
Blake threw every woman who's really gone through harassment and abuse right under the bus. And for what? Power, sympathy, control.
She accuses him of doing something, which then when you hear the full context, she said, he came in my trailer while I was breastfeeding. Well, then he produced the text messages showing her saying, I'm breastfeeding, come on over. She accused his producing partner of showing her pornography.
The proof is right there, plain as day. Texts, footage, witnesses. All of it goes against Blake's sob story, but she doesn't care. She didn't just use her fame to spread lies. She weaponized the same system women have fought for years to build. Now, any woman who steps up with a real case is gonna get hit with, oh, are you just doing a Blake Lively?
Where she filed her lawsuit against him, saying this is all retaliatory, and asking the court to shut him and Brian Friedman up because they're trying to try this case in the media. The only reason this whole thing got started, before she filed the lawsuit, she clearly cooperated with the New York Times to leak the whole thing.
The boy who cried wolf was a warning, but when it's a woman crying wolf, the fallout's even worse. Women already have a hard time being taken seriously. They're forced to provide endless proof, go through intense cross-examinations, and watch their abusers walk free. And Blake, she just handed every predator a free pass.
Her allegations have fallen apart, and her I was not really a bully, I was just targeted allegations have fallen apart. And now he's going full Johnny Depp on her to show that she was the bully. She was the one harassing him.
If one rich actress can make up a harassment story and still have half of Hollywood scrambling to defend her, what does that mean for the waitress who reports her boss? Or the intern who calls out the executive?
That even her own representatives knew that she was threatening and mean and tough and wanted to get her way.
Megyn Kelly's not just pointing this out for kicks. She knows what happens when the perfect victim image shatters. Society already doesn't believe victims enough. Now, Blake just gave them another reason to dismiss real cases. She didn't just start drama in Hollywood. She destroyed the credibility of every woman who actually needs justice.
And then says, smells good. And she says, it's my body makeup. That's her big harassment moment.
Blake's lawsuit is a joke, and not even a funny one. She said Justin Baldoni harassed her, made her uncomfortable, crossed boundaries, but her own texts prove otherwise. So where's the so-called incriminating evidence? Oh right, there isn't any. Instead, we got flirty behind-the-scenes footage of her and Justin cracking jokes about their spouses.
She's completely flirtatious with him. He is flirtatious back, but they're talking about their spouses, and it's all in good fun.
Messages where she invites him into her trailer while breastfeeding, then later calls it harassment, plus allegations that he touched her neck during a dance scene, only for leaked footage to show them laughing and joking the whole time.
And this thing is getting even more bizarre. One of the key allegations in her complaint against Justin Baldoni, she writes, on another occasion, Mr. Baldoni and Ms. Lively were filming a slow dance scene for a montage in which Mr. Baldoni chose to let the camera roll and have them perform the scene, but did not act in character as Ryle. At one point, he leaned forward and slowly dragged his lips and down her neck. Mr. Baldoni was caressing Ms. Lively with his mouth. When Ms. Lively later objected to this behavior, Mr. Baldoni's response was, "I'm not even attracted to you."
So where's the actual harassment here? That Justin didn't fall for her games? That he had the guts to stand his ground? Because the second he didn't let her control everything, she switched up the story. And now, because of her, real survivors are gonna suffer.
Well, guess what? And you can hear Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni interacting as themselves. No such moment is shown. They're acting like lovers.
And my nose is so big.
That's her big harassment moment. They are playfully acting. She's completely flirtatious with him. He is flirtatious back, but they're talking about their spouses. She doesn't say, "Oh my God, you nuzzled me."
Megyn Kelly knows exactly what's going down. She's seen this before, and she's right. Every woman who speaks out now risks being met with doubt, because if someone as powerful as Blake Lively can make up a harassment claim and get away with it, how are we supposed to believe the next woman who comes forward?
And use threats and coercion and bullying to do it.
And let's be real, men are definitely gonna use this. You know they will. The next time a woman speaks up at work, it's gonna be, "Oh, we need proof. We don't want another Blake Lively situation." And that's exactly what Megyn is heated about. Because when women misuse the system for their own benefit, the whole system stops working for the ones who truly need it.
Now she wants a complete gag order. Now he needs to be shut down to protect her. This is very unfair to poor Blake. Why should Justin be able to release snippets to the media without the full context? That's what she said.
Candace Owens called it too. Women fought so hard for the Me Too movement, only for someone like Blake to come in and use it like her own personal bargaining chip. She's the reason men can now sit back and say, "See, women lie." And when that starts happening, the whole movement falls apart, and the only ones left to suffer are the real victims.
She's the lead, and that she's now tried to turn this whole thing into a PR victory for her to get past what appears to be the fact that she is an egotistical bully.
This ain't just Blake hurting women. She recruited them. She built a whole army of Hollywood meme girls to cover her tracks and push her fake story. Colleen Hoover, Jenny Slate, Taylor Swift, PR agents who made sure the media only reported what Blake wanted. All of them played a role in shutting Justin out of his own film, his own project, while Blake strutted around like she was the only one that mattered.
And be like, that's not true. Stop supporting your friends when they're doing bad or harmful things. I think Jenny Slate, again, full opinion, full speculation, was that girl in the room who just wanted to support whatever Blake was saying. And she probably texted her and was like, "Me too. I felt weird and creepy too," or whatever.
Blake created an us versus them narrative, putting women in a tough spot. Either support her blindly or get cast out. Colleen Hoover chose wrong. She posted this glowing tribute to Blake, calling her honest and kind. And then, the minute the evidence came out, she scrubbed her Instagram, deleting every mention of Blake. Why? Because she knew she had backed a liar.
He even says we now have a concrete timeline, which we believe implicates Blake Lively. And I mean, come on. I was the psycho who put together the timeline. So I think they've been watching the show.
But the damage was already done. Women saw yet another example of how truth doesn't matter. Only power does. How in Hollywood, loyalty outweighs accountability. And when that happens, the real victims are the ones left behind.
That's what she did. She alleges that she's a Me Too victim there. That's absurd. And I can tell you that as somebody who's not a Hollywood actress, notwithstanding my very short stint in that cartoon, Bircham.
This ain't just about Blake versus Justin no more. It's about what goes down when women turn on each other just to hold on to power. And that's the real heartbreak. Women already got enough to deal with in the workplace, from gatekeepers to that mean girl office drama, and being thrown under the bus by their own coworkers. And Blake? She just gave all that extra fuel. She showed the world that women will choose their own game before they ever look out for one another. Even in a space that likes to shout about female empowerment, women will still throw each other away if it means keeping that grip on power.
Okay, but I'm just saying, this person is not an honest broker. I believe her less than ever. I actually disbelieve her fully now.
And we can't act like the mental toll ain't there. For women who've been through real abuse, this case is a straight up nightmare. Now, they ain't just got to worry about men not believing them. Now, They gotta worry about other women not believing him too. Blake proved that you can't even trust your own sisters to stand up and do the right thing.
Are you going to sue Blake Lively too?
Into oblivion, Megyn. Wait till you see this lawsuit.
Oh boy.
What happened to the whole idea of female empowerment? When did holding each other accountable go out the window? Since when did feminism turn into protecting women who use the system to their advantage instead of calling them out? Blake turned feminism into a shield, hiding behind it while she tore a man's career down, played the media, and turned women against one another. And the worst part? She don't even care. Because while real victims are out here fighting harder to be heard, Blake's probably out there, sipping on champagne, thinking she won.
And then she continued. You know, she took that stiletto and stuck it in his heart when he was down there self-flagellating, being so sorry for anything having to do with his testosterone.
And Ryan Reynolds wants everybody to believe he's some kind of feminist hero. But when his wife called out Justin Baldoni for harassment, what did he do? Did he take action? Nah. Did he push for a real HR complaint? Nope. Instead, he went off on Justin in front of senior staff, so hard that the witnesses felt guilty for not stepping in. Yep, grown folks, real executives, stood there watching Ryan rip Justin apart and later admitted they felt terrible for not having his back. But wait, it gets worse.
Blake Lively will be sued. And, and we're carefully considering other people that will be sued also. And some of
Ryan
them will come
Reynolds?
as a surprise. Ryan Reynolds, for sure.
Oh, wow.
Behind Justin's back, Ryan Reynolds took it upon himself to rewrite scenes of the movie without any kind of permission. Even Sony, a multi-billion-dollar studio that's seen all kinds of Hollywood mess, was shook. Picture this. You spend years crafting your film, only for some big shot actor with an ego bigger than the whole city of New York to come in and start messing with your work like a kid with a crayon. And here's the punchline. Ryan allegedly pressured the execs into picking Blake's version of the movie. Even though Justin's version scored higher in the test screenings, Justin made the better movie, but Blake had a meltdown, and Ryan flexed his Hollywood muscles to push it through anyway.
I guess he's in some small thing I never saw, but she's saying, F with me and we'll crush you. My dragons and I, the biggest movie star, one of them in the planet, the biggest pop star in the planet, and I will hurt you unless I get my way.
And then came the Deadpool moment. Oh, because of course, Ryan Reynolds wasn't done being annoying. Instead of treating his wife's trauma with any real respect, he made a joke about Justin in Deadpool. In a scene where Deadpool clowns a character for being all about anti-toxic masculinity, he throws shade about how the guy just had a baby. Way too specific to be a coincidence.
Ryan Reynolds, has seemingly done, right, is used his power and influence to not only help Blake Lively take over this movie, but, he's used it, on Deadpool and to make fun of Justin Baldoni.
So let's break this down. Ryan supposedly believes his wife was sexually harassed by Justin Baldoni, but then turns around and makes it a joke in his biggest movie franchise. Megyn Kelly called him out on it, and rightfully so. A real husband, a real man who truly believes his wife's been victimized, doesn't turn that into some punchline in a film. He steps up, takes action, files complaints, and demands legal consequences. But Ryan, he made a joke about it.
Ryan Reynolds was so abusive, I think he would say, I was standing up for my wife who'd been sexually harassed by this guy and so on. But what role did he have in all of this?
Why? Because even he knows Blake's accusations don't hold weight. And instead of facing that, he just used his platform to drag Justin even more. This ain't just humiliating for Justin Baldoni. It's a slap in the face to every woman out here fighting to be heard. What does Ryan Reynolds just do? It's like every office dude who hears about a harassment case and turns it into locker room gossip. He made light of it, turned it into a joke. And now, he's teaching other men that harassment allegations aren't serious. They're just some PR game.
What I make of that is that if your wife is sexually harassed, you don't make fun of Justin Baldoni. You don't make fun of the situation. You take it very seriously. You file HR complaints. You raise the issue.
And that right there, that's the real damage. Now, every workplace, every legal system, every company that's already hesitant when women speak up has one more excuse to doubt them. They'll look at this case, see how the whole story crumbled, and think, oh, women are making this stuff up all the time.
Her allegations have fallen apart, and I was not really a bully, I was just targeted allegations have fallen apart. And now he's going full Johnny Depp on her to show that she was the bully. She was the one harassing him.
Megyn Kelly's been saying it, and she's saying it again. this sets women back. If allegations turn into some kind of game, the ones who really need justice won't get it. Blake Lively didn't want justice. She didn't want accountability. What she wanted was power, and she got it by twisting the same system that real victims need to survive.
Justin didn't harass Blake. Blake was interested in wresting control of this movie away from Justin, who was the director and the producer. She was just an actress in it.
Let's break down the facts. Blake claimed Justin crossed boundaries, but her own messages show she was the one starting the contact. She invited him to private spaces, got physically affectionate, and seemed comfortable with it all. But as soon as Justin pushed back on her control over the film, suddenly, she wasn't comfortable anymore. She didn't just make up some lies, she used me to get what she wanted. She was after creative control over It Ends With Us, and when Justin wouldn't just roll over, she pulled the ultimate power move. She painted him as an abuser. She knew exactly what she was doing. The media's always been quick to tear men down at the first whiff of misconduct, and Blake used that to rewrite the whole narrative.
And so that's what happens to you, right? You run into somebody who seems like a witch who will take advantage of you and hurt you until finally even that kind of a guy rises up. Now, he didn't do it himself exactly.
And her PR team made sure the media played along. Megyn Kelly and Candace Owens both called it out. When this story first hit, all the headlines leaned Blake's way. Why? Because the narrative was already set in stone. Before Justin even got a chance to defend himself, Blake had her team planting stories, making sure her version was the one everyone was talking about. And now, the damage is done. Because when women use the system like this, the system stops working for the women who actually need it.
I defend Justin Baldoni in this lawsuit with Blake Lively because I think she's horrible and she's made up this whole thing because she tried to steal his movie.
Women have been fighting for decades to get legal protections for survivors. But courts, they don't run on emotions. They run on what's come before. And if more women like Blake keep using fake claims to win Hollywood power plays, the legal system's gonna stop believing real victims. Megyn Kelly put it best. If Blake lied, she didn't just betray Justin. She betrayed every woman who's ever told the truth. And guess what? The court saw right through it. By February 3rd, Blake Lively's case was falling apart. The evidence wasn't lining up. The witnesses weren't backing her up. And suddenly, her lawyers were all over the place, scrambling. They even tried to add new plaintiffs because it was clear they didn't have enough in the first place.
Full of evidence, admissions, documents, which prove exactly what she did and how she bullied her way through the process to take over the movie and used her PR people to try and destroy Justin.
But here's where it gets juicy. Jenny Slate, one of Blake's Hollywood supporters, was reportedly asked to join the lawsuit, and she said no. That means one of two things. Either there was no real case to begin with, or she figured out Blake was lying and didn't want to go down with the ship. Then, the judge came in with the final blow. He denied Blake's request for a delay. Let's be real here. When a judge starts turning down extensions, it's because they've had enough. The excuses weren't working, the evidence wasn't strong. Blake's whole legal strategy was just buying time and hoping something would stick.
Rises up. Now, he didn't do it himself exactly. He hired a badass named Brian Friedman. And he has badass women like me defending him. Mm-hmm. But slowly but surely, I think the male class is learning down on the floor, squirming and apologizing for being a man is not the way.
And Megyn Kelly's been on this point hard. If women start abusing the legal system for personal gain, real victims are the ones who will suffer. This ain't just about Blake Lively. It's about what happens when the legal system starts looking at every case with suspicion because of one woman's lies. Women have been fighting for decades to get workplace protections, HR policies, and legal pathways for justice. But if high-profile cases like this keep falling apart, courts are going to get more skeptical, and the real victims will have an even harder time getting the justice they deserve.
By the way, good luck to Blake Lively in getting hired again, because all of her diva antics are coming out and the way she behaves behind the scenes. And now this with the lawsuit and the New York Times thing, because she's now filed against him as well. So it's a terrible move by her and them PR-wise.
Megyn Kelly, Candace Owens, and countless other women in the media have seen this movie before. It always starts the same way. A high-profile woman makes a big accusation. The media jumps all over it. The accused gets demonized before a single piece of evidence is even shown. But when the case falls apart, the whole movement gets a black eye. And the women who really need justice, they're the ones who end up suffering. Blake Lively thought everyone would buy into her crocodile tears, her dramatic monologues about feeling unsafe, and her PR-crafted sob stories. But guess what? The internet ain't buying that BS anymore. Women everywhere saw right through her lies, and the numbers don't lie either. Blake Lively lost 397,000 followers. Her husband, Hollywood's so-called nice guy, Ryan Reynolds, he lost 398,000. That's almost 800,000 people walking away from this delusional couple, washing their hands of the mess they made. Meanwhile, Justin Baldoni, the man they tried to destroy, gained over 206,000 followers in the same time. That's 206,000 people choosing truth over fake victimhood.
For Blake and Ryan, in terms of people following them, look at these metrics of their followers. This is Blake Lively, okay? That tells us there at the bottom that over the last 30 days, she has lost 397,000 subscribers, okay? That is not a small amount. If you similarly go over to Ryan Reynolds, he's lost almost the same amount, 1,000 more than her, 398,000 subscribers.
This ain't just about numbers. This is straight up public rejection. This is what happens when women, who've spent years fighting for their credibility, watch another woman abuse the system for power and control. Blake's fake feminist sob story might have worked 10 years ago when the media still had that power to shape how we see things. But we live in an era where truth spreads faster than any PR spin. People got receipts, archived posts, leaked texts, videos. And now, the very women who were supposed to support her, they're turning on her. Women don't like being played. They don't like being pawns in some rich celebrity's power struggle. And Blake's biggest mistake? Thinking women were too slow to catch on. Even her own allies are bailing. Colleen Hoover, who was all about Blake at first, she deleted every trace of her. No more posts, no more support, nada. The same Colleen Hoover who publicly praised Blake for her honesty and kindness is now scrubbing her Instagram, like she finally figured out she backed the wrong horse.
Colleen Hoover just reactivated her Instagram account, and she has apparently deleted all of the photos with Blake Lively.
Megyn Kelly's been calling this out from the jump. This case is a nightmare for women, because now, whenever a woman comes forward with a real story of harassment or abuse, there's always going to be doubt. Blake Lively handed every misogynist, every bad faith skeptic, and every shady corporation the perfect excuse to dismiss real victims. She turned workplace misconduct into a Hollywood power game. And now, every woman fighting for justice has to work twice as hard just to be taken seriously.
Proof is overwhelming, and she has, you could say, established her brand as someone who is anti-abuse. I think it's really important to now stake a horse in this race and say, I obviously was completely manipulated, and maybe rightfully manipulated, and we could agree and say, okay, well, if Blake came to her after love bombing her and said, I've been abused, maybe Colleen actually did just legitimately believe her and did something that wasn't being motivated by anything other than belief, right?
This wasn't just a celebrity beef. Nah, this wasn't some petty Hollywood gossip. This is about trust, justice, and the future of women's credibility. Women have been fighting way too hard for way too long to have their voices heard. And for what? So some rich, entitled actress could just step into the spotlight, twist the system for her own benefit, and leave real survivors to clean up the mess? Blake Lively thought she could manipulate the media, control the narrative, and use the movement women fought for to play her game.